All right, shalom, shalom. First things first, I want to give honor and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Rechach. We say Barakat Yahweh, Barakat Yahushai, Barakat Yahweh, Barakat Yahushai, Barakat Yahweh, Barakat Yahushai, Bahashem Rechach. And we give double honors to our apostles and our elders, which are the apostle elders, a great millstone, which feeds us with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding through the spirit and power of Yahbashim Yahushai 2025, which is the hopeful year of our deliverance and the judgment and the destruction of Esau. Let's jump right into it. We already know, breaking news, it's not breaking anymore. I've shared a few videos. U.S. has struck Iran, which is, this is biblical prophecy. We're closer now than ever. We are still waiting on the MOTB. For those that don't know, that's the mark of the beast. That is the digital currency that is getting ready to be implemented on a large scale. And we are already set for the what does it say? The conditions are prime, they're right. Because once you have a financial crisis, it's easier to bring in, because the dollar hegemony depends on the economic status as it is today. If anything changes with that status, or anything changes with the environment coming to the economical front, with the dollar operating as is, then you're gonna have a switch, a pull away, a drop, a stopping of the currency. And Lord willing, I'm gonna go through certain information to show you that the storm is here for that. All right, those that are thinking, oh, we getting ready to be up, man, we wanna be out of here. Trust and believe. But the words of Yahbashim Yahshua has to come to pass in order. Everything must be done decently and in order. Okay, that's what prophecy the Lord said for his word's sake. All right. But the elect's sake, the days are being shortened. So let's go through this information now. This video here is of Putin responding back and saying on the issue, Putin has given a stern warning to the U.S. concerning the nuclear plants, and they bombed it. They hit those plants. Those were Russians in there. Russians were working those plants. All right. And especially the deep bunker one. I don't know if that was Hesfa or I forget the names they have on them. But the one that was very deep that they used the bunker busters on, they call them MOPs. All right. Massive ordnance penetrators, if I'm not mistaken. But that's the acronym for the MOP. So this is Putin speaking about the situation in Iran.
The forum this year.
And this is fair use, fair use. This is for educational purposes only. Fair use, fair use.
Coincides with the 80th anniversary or commemoration of the Day of Victory, the World War II. Are you concerned that we are heading into World War III in any way?
Беспокоит. Говорю без всякой иронии, без шуток.
It concerns me. I am speaking seriously, without any irony or humor. There is a lot of conflict potential, and it is growing, including right under our noses. It affects us directly. This is the conflict we are facing in Ukraine, as well as the situation in the Middle East. We are very concerned about the situation around Iran's nuclear facilities. We are worried about where this could lead. This requires not only our careful attention to the events taking place, but also a search for solutions, preferably peaceful ones, in all areas. I say this quite sincerely. We support Iran in defending its legitimate interests, including its interests on peaceful atom. We have always taken this position.
Решение, причем желательно мирными средствами, по всем направлениям. Вот я говорю совершенно искренне. Мы поддерживаем Иран.
You can clearly see. They know. And we know that the Russians go back to Shah, okay? The apostle brought that out. The chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, all right? They're not, the Lord has put the hooks in their jaws. What do you think the Lord is using Esau against? He's using the sword against the sword. Some of these men are Edomites. We don't know what Vladimir Putin's line is, but he's being used. He's a piece in the board of prophecy. All right, he's not an average person. You know, he's somebody that the Lord has set up, just like Alexander the Great. All right, we call him the Creep, but he was used. He was that goat that was used. So the Lord uses other nations for his purposes, just like he uses us for his purposes. But on the long run, and the things that you're seeing, that Yahbashim Yahshua is moving these pieces, and hey, the deliverance is close, man. All right, these nukes are being. Those bunker busters are next to nuclear weapons. They're in the ferocity of the yield that they give off. All right, they're able to bring forth and give out heavy explosion damage, and they launch, I think, 12 or 24 bunker busters or mops. All right.
В борьбе за его законные интересы, в том числе в борьбе за его интересы по мирному атому. И мы всегда занимали эту позицию.
Our principled position on this issue and in this conflict has not changed. Who says we should have done more? What more could we have done? Should we initiate combat operations? We are already engaged in combat operations against those who oppose the ideas we defend and who pose a threat to the Russian Federation. These are essentially the same forces in Iran and in our case. These forces are somewhere far away, in the rear, behind our backs. They are not even on the front line. However,
So we here. All right. So let's pull up some of these articles. So let's pull up this one right here, where it says Iran to close Strait of Hormuz. U.S. calls on China to prevent Iran from closing Strait of Hormuz, disrupting global oil flow. This was 5 hours ago. So next week they ain't finna just take a hit to their oil refineries and is everything cool. You get to fly back to the U.S. and everything just be okay. No, this gonna lead to, it's gonna cascade. This is gonna be a cascading effect. Okay, this is the point. That's why the Lord has this strait here, because they are set to close it. Look at it. Look, you can see it. This is the Strait of Hormuz right here. That's how much they got to close. They ain't got to close down that much at all. You can clearly see this right here is only thing they got to shut down from here to here. That's it. If they shut that down, ain't no ships coming. They can landmine it, do any kind of dangerous thing, but if you come through there, it's gonna be a bad deal, man. Okay? It's gonna be a bad deal for ships and anything like that. And it says, let's go ahead and read it. It says, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Sunday called for China to prevent Iran from closing the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important trade routes of crude oil in the world. I encourage the Chinese government in Beijing to call them about, because why they saying that? Oh, we know where your oil's coming from. You better shut it down, because they're attacking. This is a roundabout way of, it's not a proxy anymore. It's all out conflict, because Iran is one of the main producers of oil to China. And they trade for military information, for different economical things and economical trade with Iran and China. That's why they calling on China. Hey, close your strait. They're gonna close it. You better keep it open, because that's almost what does it say? They're being facetious, sarcastic. You want to close it because they know China's going to be directly affected by that. All right, and it says one of the most important trade routes of crude oil in the world. I encourage the Chinese government in Beijing to call them about that, because they heavily depend on the Strait of Hormuz for their oil. They're directly talking to China, because they know what Iran's going to do. Iran's pissed off. Iran has been disrespected. They've been embarrassed in the world stage. They've been attacked. They've been attacked on multiple fronts. Rubio said in an interview on Fox News, China is Iran's most important oil customer and maintains friendly relations with the Islamic Republic. See that? So they're openly, it's a slick diss, if you know what that is. It's a slick diss. It says, options, Iran Strait of Hormuz Gambit. Iran Strait of Hormuz Gambit. Tehran can cause the price of oil to spike, but it will hurt itself more. Iran's parliament voted Sunday to close the Strait of Hormuz. See, the narrow sea passage out of the Persian Gulf, and the regime does this, it will consist with Iran's recent behavior, which is to go for its own jugular. Iran is run by Ayatollah al-Khamenei and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, so the Supreme National Security Council will make the final decision. Some 20% of more than the world's oil supply moves through the strait after loading from oil terminals in the Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. There's no doubt that the closing of the strait would send oil prices higher, probably above $100 a barrel for a time, A risk premium for possible closure has already bumped the oil prices to mid-70s a barrel, ranging since Israel launched its attack on Iran. The world's supply of oil is more than diverse than it was 20 years ago, thanks to part of American frackers. Some Gulf oil can also move via pipeline from Saudi Arabia. China would be one of the biggest losers from the Hormuz shutdown, as much as oil comes from the Gulf. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made that point on the Sunday talk show, urging China to advise Iran against closing the strait. So what I did is that I typed in, this is the chat, this is what would happen if the U.S. dollar, or what would happen to the U.S. dollar if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, hyperinflation, society collapse. If Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz, the impact on the U.S. dollar and the border economy would be significant, though the likelihood of hyperinflation or social collapse is debated. Here's the breakdown and potential consequences. Oil price surge, inflation pressure. The Strait of Hormuz handles 20% of global oil trade and 20% of liquefied natural gas, LNG, shipments. Blockade could immediately spike oil prices by 30 to 50%, which gasoline prices potentially raised by $5 per gallon. Higher energy costs would ripple through the U.S. economy, increasing transportation, manufacturing, and consumer good prices, leading to short-term inflation. However, the U.S. is less depending on the Persian Gulf oil than its past decades, importing only 0.5 million barrels per day, 77% of total crude import from the region, and might, mitigate the inflation pressure. U.S. Dollar strengthen versus hyperinflation risk. The dollar could initially strengthen due to the role in global safe haven currency during crisis. Investors might flock to the dollar dominating assets as seen in the past global shock and hyperinflation. Extreme uncontrolled price rise is unlikely lest the blockade persists for months and triggers a border committed crisis. The U.S. Federal Reserve would likely respond with aggressive monetary policies and hikes to stabilize prices. Global economy fallout, the U.S. responds. The prolonged closure would disrupt Asia's economy. China, India, Japan, South Korea, which rely heavily on Hormuz-shipped oil. This could reduce global demand for U.S. exports, hurting GDP growth. So everything is moving itself, okay? This is a risk that they know what's going on. They got everything finite down to the dollar, okay? They got everything with what it's going to cause, because this is going to directly affect Russia, China, and the BRICS nation, okay? The BRICS organization that's trying to get away from the dollar. So they're trying to kill that at the same time, all right? And it says, Putin says Ukraine is ours to threaten and threatens nuclear strike, showing how he feels about Trump. Then let's go here. This 11-hour senior Russia official says Trump has started a new war on Iran that will strengthen Khamenei. Former ambassador to Russia, Putin, Xi, will celebrate Trump's preemptive war in Iran. Let's pull this up. Former ambassador to Russia, Putin, Xi, will celebrate Trump's preemptive war with Iran. Former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, offered warning on Saturday on how U.S. strike on Iran could influence U.S. adversaries around the world. In an interview on MSNBC, Mark Fowle said Russia President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping would be glad to see the U.S. engage the preemptive strike. I think we've really got to understand our other interests in the world that might be affected by this attack today. This is a preemptive war. The world does not support preemptive wars. We learned that in 2003, McFaul said, referring to the U.S. invasion of Iraq, which was launched based on a theory of Saddam Hussein regime having weapons of mass destruction and threatening America. Putin will be celebrating this because he did his own preemptive war on Ukraine, and now it's like, well, this is just what great powers do. Maybe Xi Jinping is going to think the same. He's going to say, well, if they can do it here, we can do it in Taiwan. So this is a powder keg, man. You know, like I said earlier, this is going to cascade out of control, okay? Because they think they have it in perspective, but they don't know they're being moved. Because going back to the statue of Nebuchadnezzar dealing with Daniel, when he seen the vision of the statue, which Nebuchadnezzar seen the vision and Daniel broke it down and told him that this was a symbolic pictorial symbol of nations that were going to come in, they were going to come out, powers were going to raise up, powers were going to fall down. Okay, so now we're seeing the fruits of that now in modern times. The Lord is moving all these pieces around the same way, just like we're moving, and He moved it around in the history. Okay, this is the book of Luke 21 and 28. Let's go down to the NLT. It says, so when all these things begin to happen, stand and look up, for your salvation is near. So let's go to 27. Let's go to 27. 25. It says, and there will be strange signs in the sun and moon. We just had a blood moon, or we just had an eclipse. We just had a strawberry moon on the Shabbat. Okay, we have a northern lights that are seen over Babylon. All these things are signs. Okay, wonders in the stars. And here on earth, the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring of seas and strange tides. People will be terrified at what they are seeing coming on the earth, upon the earth, for the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then everyone will see the Son of Man come in a cloud with power and great glory. So when all these things begin to happen, stand and look up, for your salvation is near. So Yahweh Shemel Shah is pulling closer, man. And these are the signs that we need and the things that He's told us, so we can know that Yahweh Shemel Shah is dealing with this truth. Jeremiah 50 and verse 45, and let's read the King James. Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord, that He hath taken against Babylon, and his purpose that He hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely He shall make their habitation desolate with them. And this has come to pass. Okay, the least of the flock has drawn them out. We brought this out a lot, but now the least of the flock brought Babylon to do a high intensity military strike on another nation, a sovereign nation, behind the Israelis, the Amalekites, okay, the biblical Amalekites, Amalek. Okay, so we're seeing that right now. That was fulfilled in our time. That's why Habakkuk says, though it tarry, wait for it, it shall surely come. This is Revelations 11 and verse 14. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So we come into the door of that. We're waiting on a financial crisis, the MOTB, and the war is going to be hot, okay, because the Lord has to do these things in succession of time, in succession of prophecy. All right, so I just had to bring that out. Lord willing, let a fine lesson. Pray, stay prayed up. Stay in the spirit. We close to home, man. All right. Yahweh Shem Shah is acting and doing big things in the times that we're living in. So with that, I say call hello, Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Ba'ashem Chakodash. Until the next time, I say shalom. And more than ever, keep faith. Shalom.